What's something everyone denies but is actually real? Story 1. The you in your head is not the you that everyone else knows or sees. In fact, every single person has a different view of who you are. The biggest trip of this discovery for me was considering that my evaluation of myself might actually be the least realistic. It's your actions that define you entirely in other people's eyes. Whereas my definition of self is based on almost entirely my internal thoughts. If some/most of those thoughts never translate into action, how real are they? Another way I like to think this thought is, I'm the only person who doesn't really know what I look like, or what I seem like, how I come across, how I move, etc., etc. I'm a super recognizer, thanks autism, so I can recognize a distant acquaintance, for example, just by seeing them walking down the street while I'm driving past. Yet, if I were seeing my own self, I wouldn't necessarily know that it was me. Whenever I've seen a video of myself, I'm like, huh, so that's what I look like. Always slightly surprised. To take that even further, if it is true that we all see ourselves differently and see everyone else differently in such a way that we would not recognize ourselves if we saw our true image, then it is not only probable that we all look exactly the same, but it is also possible that we are actually the same person experiencing each other simultaneously. This is what is meant by the multiverse, or many worlds theory of the universe. It isn't that there are extra universes beyond our own. It is that each of us is an entire universe, and we converge onto the one we share. We are not only a reflection of everyone around us, but everyone around us is also a reflection of us. This determines how we perceive them, how we treat them, what we believe they think of us, and how we perceive their actions. It sounds like science fiction, but it has significant consequences in the fields of psychology, physics, neuroscience, and religious history. It's also quite true. The best example of this that I had was a nemesis in business school. I get along well with everyone. I'm considered to be kind and generous, and at the risk of patting myself on the back even more, I'm well liked and well trusted, and I have a lot of friends. This dude in my school did not like me at all, and made no attempt to hide it, making occasionally disparaging remarks, disagreeing with me at every instance. When he heard that I received a good mark on something, he said, You? You got that mark? The professor must have not even read it. My then girlfriend, the future wife, said it couldn't be that bad. But then she visited me at school and we went to the pub and she saw it firsthand. That dude hates your guts. He wasn't in my class, wasn't my competition. I barely spoke to him. He obviously had a different view of me than I have of myself, than most people have of me. Last year, I started performing stand-up comedy, and most of my friends told me how evident this was, that the real question was, why didn't you start sooner, and stuff. Now, there's one friend I've known for 20 plus years, and he said, that doesn't sound like you. I just can't imagine you telling jokes in front of a crowd. And I was like, bro, that's what I've been doing all my life, only not on stage. But he was like, nah, it's just weird. You're a pretty serious guy, not the funny type. Why would you do stand-up comedy? I was like, who the hell is this guy? Story 2. We physically judge people when we first meet them. I'd just add it's not just about beauty. E.g., am a psychological researcher, as opposed to a counselor/clinician. Lots of research shows that other features are very important to our quick judgments of others, including something called prototypicality. How much this person looks like the average person you're familiar with. More prototypical faces are seen as more trustworthy than less prototypical faces. For example, on average anyway, individuals still vary in how they make their judgments, but everyone who can see does make a judgment. This is really interesting. I grew up in a predominantly Latin and Black area. I am white passing. At work, I always feel an instant sense of trust for my Latin and Black coworkers, and I've always wondered why. I mean, I assumed it was because of the familiarity of what I grew up around, but hadn't quite coined it trust, but rather comfort. I think trust is more accurate. I've experienced this too, and I'm a ginger. but I was raised in super diverse areas of East LA and then Queens, New York, and we had kind of a boarding house growing up and had 6 black men living with us when I was 4 to 7, plus people of multiple races over the years. My white parents both spoke Spanish fluently, Dad taught it, and had a very diverse friend group. That comfort level is there for me, especially with Latin and black people I meet, and I understand that it doesn't go both ways unless we become friends. If I think about it in response to the comment above, it's really weird. My DH is Mexican, and I'm closer to his family than mine and translate into English for him. Occasionally, I'm semi-surprised to find out I'm not actually Mexican. My BFF is Chinese American, and we used to be shocked as kids when we caught sight of ourselves in a mirror and realized how different we looked, because we felt the same to each other. Damn, this answer has me thinking. I'm curious if attire and appearance play a big role in this. For example, everything below here is discussing how I absolutely judged people and how prejudices changed over time. Not mean to offend. When I was a child, I remember being terrified of people with face piercings and lots of tattoos. I associated them with the bad guys in movies of the time. When I was a teen, I met my friend's cousin who had piercings and tattoos, but he was one of the most gentle, kind, and thoughtful people I knew. For a while after, I remember associating people with those attributes as kind and gentle, while sometimes aloof or shy, and I found myself gravitating towards them when at parties, or going out of my way to greet them in class or dorms. In other words, I associated people with one person that I was familiar with who had a similar appearance, but also did not look like the average person that I knew. My husband is 34 and recently had to have his front tooth pulled out as the root was infected and the tooth died. He is getting bone grafting done so that he can get an implant in 8 months. Takes that long for the bone graft to heal. He owns his own business and has noticed a decrease in sales and a difference in how new clients treat him. He said they don't trust him and aren't as chatty. He feels less confident without his front tooth. So yes, in this one-person anecdotal experiment, it is true. Story 3. You are much more likely to believe whatever side of the story that you hear first. Kids know this one for sure. That's why you gotta rush to the door when mom or dad gets home so that you can tell your side before your siblings. But I think most people who have had to deal with the police also know this. Whoever calls the cops first wins. So years ago, my best friend went on vacation out of the country and I had no way to contact her. While she was gone, I caught her boyfriend going to a club and trying to cheat on my friend with someone that I knew. I had no way to tell my friend in real time and had to wait for her to come back from her trip. I knew I had to get to her before the boyfriend got to her with some made-up story. The boyfriend knew he had to beat me to the punch, and he did. This mother effer met her at the airport and proposed to her before I could tell her what he was up to. And people won't believe you when you point this out. You know, the news doesn't actually tell you the truth, right? They have an agenda. They want ratings and sensationalism gets them viewers. There was this or that example. But no, I saw it on the news. It was on TV. It has to be real. Ugh. Less damaging an example is the weather forecast. It's consistently wrong, but people will still plan their lives around it. Tucker Carlson was sued over being fake news, but he had claimed that to be entertainment, and that his claims were clearly satire, and dodged the charges. He seriously said that it was part of his style, and that no reasonable person would ever believe him, so it was okay. The removal of the line between the truth and lies means that people and corporations can freely create echo chambers for the less intelligent and feed them the lies they prefer instead of the truth they need to hear. And that's how America got stuck, essentially eternally fighting a cancer that spread too far too fast. On the internet, though, people seem much more likely to believe the first rebuttal they hear. For instance, that guy who went viral for calling into Zoom court while driving, even though he had a suspended license, everyone was crawling out of the woodwork to apologize to him when he came out, and was all, actually my license wasn't suspended, the court screwed up. But I never heard anyone giving an update to his rebuttal that it turned out that he never had a license in the first place. Apparently he finally got one this week. Everyone just wants to believe the gotcha reply and not the initial story or someone refuting the gotcha reply. Story 4. Everyone is susceptible to bias. We all think it's something that just affects other people. Part of having bias always is that you think yours is the thought-out, reasonable, and just one. People can be turned against each other easily, and sometimes they are both right or wrong. There was a documentary I watched within the past year that showed unconscious bias by using a pairing test in a lecture hall. The test simply had a list that contained traditionally male and female names, and a wide array of job titles and homemaker-adjacent roles. For the first round, everyone in the lecture hall had to say either right or left whenever a word appeared on the screen within a second or two. If the job or role title was technical, or if the word was a male name, they said one direction, like right, and if the job or role title was homemaker adjacent, or if the word was a female name, they had to say the other direction, the left. Ultimately, the audience provided an answer, on average, close to half a second after the word appeared on the screen and with very high accuracy, at least 95% correct. In the second round, one direction was for female names and technical jobs, while the other direction was for male names and homemaker-adjacent jobs. The audience was wildly inaccurate within the time frame for a response. When they did respond, it took twice as long as the first round of responses. My husband and I sat through this portion of the show multiple times participating in the exercise at home, and we were both shocked at how poorly we did. Just like the audience, it was truly eye-opening to an unconscious bias I thought I didn't have. I was at the end of my STEM PhD when a French association launched lesexperts.fr, a website designed to promote female experts so journalists can interview them. That's when I realized we see a 30-year-old man in a suit as a reference, but a 30-year-old woman in a suit looks like an upper-class mom, because that's what the media shows us. The NZ Prime Minister got bullied because of misogyny, but also because she looked young and fabulous. And that's a girlfriend/partner vibe, not a world leader appearance. I had a psychology course in college where we started off one class. She asked everyone to draw a chair. Everyone drew a piece of furniture with 4 legs, a back, and a seat. Okay, but beanbag chairs are a thing. Recliners are a thing. 3-legged chairs are a thing, and beach chairs with armrests are a thing. Nobody drew those. That's, at the root, bias. Everyone has this preconceived notion of what a chair is. This kind of bias exists across everything, and you can't turn it off. You can't control it. You can change it, you can learn from it, but you can't make it go away. There will always be some sort of preconceived notion of what something is. Bias can be positive, negative, or neutral. It can be accurate or inaccurate. It exists for everything: chairs, buildings, people, ethnicities, genders, etc. Bias can be positive or negative. We all have them, but you can change a particular bias. Say that you think all people from Asia are good at math. You can meet a wider variety of Asian people, discover that each area is different, go visit the areas in Asia and meet different Asian people who have different strengths and weaknesses. Cooking, singing, dancing, math, fiction writing, gaming. Not just that, but recognizing bias is often enough to mitigate a lot of it. Hey, now that I think about it, why do I believe this? If you can't find a logical explanation, you've just gotten rid of, or at least heavily reduced the impact of, any given bias. It's a lot harder for something you've thought about for a long time, but it can still totally happen without learning any new information. Sometimes I like to reevaluate common sense for this reason. I've always thought X was unquestionably better than Y, so I never gave Y very much consideration. Let's change that. Story 5. People often brush off gut feelings as just random, but there's some real science that suggests intuition can actually lead us to good decisions. It's true, but it's hard because most of us have anxiety to some extent. So for me, before something bad happens, I almost always have a gut feeling that something bad is going to happen. But I also get those feelings sometimes when nothing bad or even notable is about to happen, I feel like I judge people a little bit more harshly than they deserve until I can figure them out. There are the people who you immediately like who wear their hearts and emotions on their sleeves. Then there are the people with layers, like, oh, I thought that guy was a douchebag, but he's actually a sweetheart who's a little insecure, and puts on an overconfident front. Oh, that guy is just blunt because it's his sense of humor. Oh, that girl is just a little bit awkward because she's on the spectrum. I love all those people. Then there are the people who you can never quite figure out because they never quite let their guard down. I don't trust those people at all because it feels like everything they do is an act. Definitely. Sometimes people just get a bad feeling despite other preconceived notions, like potential victims said Jeffrey Dahmer was good-looking but gave them the creeps, so it's something deeper than appearance. Similarly, hikers/fishermen, hunters often have a gut feeling about something being wrong about their environment, like tingles on the back of their necks. It's often an animal or something stalking you. I personally experienced this. It's where the phrase "trust your gut" comes from. I have a story about this that happened recently. I'm traveling for work, and at the end of one day last week, I stopped at Goodwill to just browse and not drive around Denver traffic for a while. Koufax. The word popped into my head out of nowhere, probably a street somewhere. I walk in and head to the book section and immediately see a black-spined book with shiny green lettering. Koufax. So I picked it up, and sure enough, it was a book about the baseball player Sandy Koufax. I always open books that catch my eye to see when they were printed, and on the first blank page is a signature, Sandy Koufax. It's in pencil, maybe traced, and I have no idea if it's real, but if you listen hard enough, you can pick up on some wild vibes. Story 6. You are not immune to propaganda. A true but empty statement, like saying everyone can be influenced. Like, of course. But is it considered opinion forming or adjective brainwashing? Is the propaganda true info or false? People will take this truism and then claim, often without knowing, to know exactly what has influenced you and how. Sad, but 100% true. Regardless of whether we have our own views that we hold on to, or we subscribe to the particular ideological views of any party, movement, group, or community, we have all spent our lives marinating in its influence, which makes it near impossible to shed the resulting biases we formed in one way or another as a result. We've effectively been branded. Story 7. When most people say, everyone, they are most likely seeking confirmation bias. Oh, I have been getting so sick of these self-affirming question posts lately. Some guy will see some single troll comment on Reddit or Twitter and go on a rant like, why does band/game/person get so much hate from everyone on the things subreddit? Not sure if they're wrong, karma farming, or just lack the ability to understand that not everyone agrees on everything, or that some people just say negative crap for the sake of saying it. The same goes for nobody, but I think that one gets used a bit more harshly, where you might tell somebody something and then they say, nobody thinks that way. Nobody says that. Ultimate gaslighting response type thing without any evidence to follow their quick comment. My ex-wife would give that feedback when we'd have tough conversations, and she just didn't want to give up any ground or whatever. One of those hypothetical thinkers. Story 8. Money doesn't buy happiness. Watch me leave IKEA full of joy with a 100-centimeter plush shark. Money doesn't buy happiness is a complex statement because 98% of my problems would be solved by having lots of money. Money absolutely can buy comfort, which increases happiness and decreases stress. However, money cannot buy actual love and companionship from other human beings, nor can it always buy fulfillment. Sometimes money will allow you to be more fulfilled, but not always. So on the one hand, yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, but on the other hand, sometimes it does buy happiness. The saying should really be money doesn't make you immune from sadness/depression/stress or whatever other negative emotion you can get, but that doesn't roll off the tongue. It's most appropriate to things like a rich person killing themselves, but somehow it ends up always getting used to hand-wave the idea that people would be happier without financial stress. It's significantly easier to make friends when you have money to go out and do things with them. I have a lot of friends, but the absolute closest ones are the ones that I travel with, which isn't something my less fortunate friends can do, which ultimately causes me to not be as close to them since we spend less time together and have less unique experiences together. It's also a lot easier to date if you have money, for obvious reasons, which is what actually leads to falling in love. You just have to be a little bit more careful of gold diggers, but unless you're really rich, that's honestly probably not much of an issue. Money absolutely buys happiness. If you have a good, reliable income, no huge debts to worry about, a comfortable home, and spare income for your hobbies, that's about the cutting off point. Beneath that point, you have insecurity, stress, and passing up things that make you happy because you can't afford them. Above that point, you just have more money, and maybe more expensive hobbies to spend that money on in a way that doesn't make you actually happier. Most people do in fact live in the range where more money would make them happier, but the people who already got rich and are now obsessed with becoming super rich have long since overshot their target. This. I've had money and I've been dirt poor. I was happy with the former and constantly stressed and miserable during the latter. Money buys time to spend with loved ones, enriching those relationships by spent time. Time to pursue whatever you'd like instead of spending most of our waking hours at a job you probably don't like very much that rarely pays enough. If you are sick, you can access the best care money can buy. Obviously, money can't cure cancer or anything, but your odds on many illnesses are better with care. You also don't have to worry about how to pay the bills, so you can take time off for treatment and rest. This also goes for mental illness. And I say this as a bipolar person. It is much easier to deal with things like depression if you don't have to force yourself to work when you can't even get out of bed. You can give to charities and do things for loved ones, and both of those things do wonders for one's soul. Anyone who says money makes you miserable doesn't know how to handle money. Story 9. Everyone is stereotyping and judging others constantly. It's human nature. Absolutely. It's part of our natural survival instincts. You need to judge someone you first meet quickly, and you need to trust your intuition on that, which is based on past experience and knowledge. Meanwhile, the corporate world is like never judge someone or stereotype someone and take the emotion out of the situation, as if someone can just turn off their natural human behaviors. Okay, I keep seeing this comment and I genuinely don't understand it. Why not just accept those as preconceived notations that are mainly due to society? As someone who does have these thoughts, like most, I am just allow them to go away and don't dwell on them so as to not box anyone in. Does anyone else do this? Because it's happening at a subconscious level too, and for people who lack awareness about this, they're less likely to filter their preconceptions and biases. Subconscious created by what? Stereotypes are preconceived notions without being taught what said notions are. You actually have no impression of what someone or a group is like until an interaction. This is universal and why first impressions matter. Evolutionary, humans see everyone else as variations of the other. Stereotypes contradict that. They say you know someone else. People say it's tribalism, but it's actually the opposite. Story 10. Being addicted to your cell phone. I have a few friends who use their phones for work, so I understand it partly, but their faces are staring at that screen constantly throughout the whole day, every single day. We're in some group texts, and they not only respond within seconds to everything, but they're posting all the time. Yeah, I'm definitely addicted to my phone. I don't have to be on it all the time, but I need the option to be on it all the time. If not, I get panicky. My biggest thing is wanting to look crap up all the time, like mid-conversation, fact-checking, and just finding information that we're discussing, etc. But it inevitably becomes me opening Reddit or Instagram or something, and I'll catch myself scrolling some BS. But it's also awesome to be able to find out information instantly whenever I want. As someone who is not addicted to their phone, I look at the thing maybe once a day. The past 5 or 10 so years have felt like I'm living in some satirical future dystopia. Why is everyone always on their phone? How do they not realize they're addicted? How does no one see that this isn't normal? I just don't get it. I know I'm addicted, but what the hell else am I gonna do? I spent enough time bored trying to entertain myself with nothing but my own brain as a kid. Had to go back to that willfully as an adult. You don't even get toys. It's not like I'm some rich girl who can hire someone to handle all the hard and boring parts of life while I go do actually rewarding and fulfilling crap with my time. Phone while multitasking or dead tired is what I've got. Oh, the smartphone is by far the most addictive legal thing that's available. It's pure and simple a dopamine machine that makes you addicted like gambling. Instead of throwing a coin on a slot machine, you unlock your phone to do something. Anything. Have you checked and found a new app update? Rewarded. You checked Instagram again and just saw a newly posted picture. Rewarded. You didn't find anything new? Sense of disappointment and failure. Let's throw another coin in that slot machine in a few minutes. Story 11. I'm a teacher, and they like to reiterate that we aren't in it for the money, but are in it for the kids. I guess that's true in crappy paying areas, but where I live, I'm there to be a good teacher, for a sizable salary. Without the money, I have zero desire to teach kids. Anyone pushing the narrative that you shouldn't do a job for the money is entirely just interested in avoiding paying you. Whenever I'm on summer vacation and someone says, "Must be nice to have summers off," I usually say, "It is. It's one of the reasons I chose this career." I'm in New York, and teachers here make pretty damn good money with enormous perks. Extreme job security, summers off, week-long breaks throughout the year, and large pensions. It's a damn good job to have and competitive for that reason. If you bring this up to teachers, a lot of them get defensive and want to point out how awful it is and difficult it is. And like, yeah, I get it, we all have hard jobs. But you should be proud you're in a profession with a lot of perks. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Teachers are some of the most important professions in the world. They should have strong benefits to attract the best talent. It's just weird that people don't want to talk about it or acknowledge that it's an enormous plus. Having good benefits and good paying jobs doesn't discredit the hard work you perform. I wish I had summers off with my job. That'd be an amazing thing to have. I'd deliberately search for a job that had that in my industry if it existed. But it's really just teachers. I remember in a mom group I was in, a bunch of moms were hating on Blippi. He's only doing it for the money. How weird. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, I hope he's in it for the money. A grown man dressing in orange suspenders, singing about excavators and playing in kids' museums with a camera crew not in it for the money is weirder to me. Everyone's in it for the money, whatever it is. Some people also happen to love whatever it is for them. I think the idea is that the driving force to do a job in the first place is the desire to teach kids, and not the desire to get that specific paycheck. That helps with a lot of jobs. People who have a passion for the field they work in are so much better than people who do it only as a necessity to get money. In social jobs, it's a little more important because the work attitude directly affects other people. But of course, it's pointless reiterating it to people as if that would change their attitude. In the end, you can't change crap. Either the people you deal with are there because they like the job, then they are pissed to hear the obvious, or they are there despite the job, then they are pissed to be attacked. Story 12. Children don't bounce back quickly after a traumatic event. Even if we like to think that they do because they continue to function, their brain just isn't yet equipped to deal with trauma, so handling the memory is delayed. That's how we get messed up adults who need therapy. Children react differently to trauma. Some react this way, and some really do just get over crap. We shouldn't tell all of them that they should feel traumatized just because they went through some crap. Just help the ones that actually are. I had a lot of extended family members die when I was a kid. Everyone always thought it was super odd that I had basically no reaction. I heard a lot of different people process grief in different ways. Truth is, and I was smart enough to not tell them, I didn't care. These people weren't in my life more than 3 days out of the year. They were effectively strangers to me. I simply did not care about them. So when I was dragged across the country to attend a 4-day wake/funeral/whatever, I just played video games all day. There was literally nothing else for me to do. Now I am fully aware I'm not typical. I barely care about my immediate family, but immensely care about unrelated people who have become my family, and that most children probably would be traumatized by death. I'm just offering a small bit of evidence towards some kids really do get over things because something might not even be a thing towards a particular kid. Story 13. Knowing your limitations is as important as knowing and cultivating your gifts. This "you can do anything" rhetoric just messes with a kid's mind. I prefer to say "you can learn anything," because that seems more accurate to me. For example, I am 5 feet tall, but I always loved basketball as a kid. It would be foolish for someone to say I could do anything and become a professional player because the reality is my body is not really built for that, which is okay. I still played basketball for several years, learned a lot about the game, and was pretty good at it. I think it's important to be realistic, but not pessimistic about your goals in life. Yes and no. If you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're also right. The point is that many people fail to achieve anything because they're too afraid of failure. You only learn your limits when you push them. When you remove the idea of a limit for a formative mind, it allows them to push beyond the ordinary. Now, of course, there are safety concerns that must be addressed first before pushing this narrative. Gifts beyond biological advantages are just things people spend a lot of time on since their childhood. I love it when people see a 25-year-old drawing hyper-realistic paintings and say, My, OMG, that's a talent, I could never do that. Did you draw since you were 3? No, because of the 25 you did. It's not some paranormal God-given ability. It's just that a person who invested 22 years more into drawing than you did will undoubtedly be better than you. Honestly, a lot of social tension these days is down to the trend of parents assuring their children they are the best and can achieve anything they want if they just try. These are lies. Straight up lies. Nobody is the best. It's not even close. And there is a very narrow window of what most people are allowed to achieve, based upon the amount of money they are born into, with an obviously widening window for wealth. When I was a teacher, I would tell my kids, why would you be good at anything you haven't practiced yet? You're not Harry Potter, that wouldn't make any sense. But if you keep coming back with a good attitude and putting in good effort, and solid focus, practice, then you will get better and can get as good as you want at anything if you keep coming back for a long enough time. The amount of time is different for everybody, so don't worry about that so much. But if you keep coming back, you will get better over time, period. Story 14. Imposter syndrome is real but often ignored. Many successful people feel like they're faking it, even though they have achievements to prove their skills. It's a common feeling of doubting one's own abilities. As a scientist, I made peace with it when I realized that apparently my greatest gift is an unholy trinity. 1, I can pick up new things I know nothing about rather quickly. 2, I made quite a few odd sideways moves in the fields I work in, and expert at many, a master at none, certainly applies to me as a second thingy in the trinity. 3, easy talker with a probably can-do attitude completes the picture. I keep stumbling into things I find interesting. People let me get involved in them because my caffeine-induced ramblings apparently make them think I'm the person who can take it further. Then it's time for the "I'm in danger" chuckle, and the "wait, why do people entrust me with this?" And apparently then somehow through the magic of my curiosity, sacrifices to the devil, and failing hard and fast, I managed to fail forward. I gave up on worrying about it. It landed me a doctor title and a fun career, so let's just keep doing what I do. But plenty of my friends have complained about the imposter syndrome, so I wonder how many keep it to themselves. I think it's super prevalent, but everyone is afraid to talk about it in fear of getting caught as the imposter. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.